Joseph Stalin, the most feared dictator on the face of the earth, once picked up a pen and signed an order to kill John Wayne. Not John Wayne the cowboy, not John Wayne the movie star. John Wayne, the symbol, the living, breathing, 6'4" embodiment of everything America stood for. And Stalin couldn't stand it. This was not a movie script. This was a classified FBI reality. Stalin dispatched trained KGB agents to Hollywood with one mission: find Wayne and silence him forever. Stalin sent his killers, but he didn't count on one thing. The man they were hunting wasn't afraid of anyone. Not communists, not the Kremlin, not death itself. To understand why Stalin wanted John Wayne dead, you have to understand what was happening in America in the late 1940s. The Cold War wasn't just being fought in Europe. It was being fought in movie theaters also. Stalin's propaganda machine understood something that most politicians didn't. Movies shaped the soul of a nation, and no soul was being shaped more powerfully than by the films of John Wayne. In 1944, Wayne helped found the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals. It sounds like a mouthful, but the mission was simple: keep communist influence out of Hollywood. And Wayne wasn't just a member. He became its president. He testified before Congress. He named names. He used his fame like a weapon, and he pointed it directly at the Soviet agenda. In Moscow, this was not taken lightly. According to Soviet filmmaker Sergei Gerasimov, who attended the 1949 World Peace Council in New York, Stalin was personally infuriated by Wayne. Gerasimov later reported that Stalin declared, and I quote, "John Wayne must be destroyed." But the order from the Kremlin was only the beginning. What came next, on the streets of Hollywood, is where this story turns truly terrifying. It was 1950. Two spies from the Soviet Union arrived in Los Angeles. They were trained killers, but they disguised themselves as normal people. Their mission was to kill the actor John Wayne. Their orders were clear: make his death look like an accident. The spies watched the Warner Brothers movie studio where Wayne worked. They learned his daily schedule and the roads he drove on. They got very close to him, closer than anyone realized. Years later, Wayne told this story to his friend, a historian named Michael Munn. Wayne explained that the FBI had warned him. The FBI sat him down and told him the truth. The Soviet government has sent men to kill you. Most people would be terrified if Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, wanted them dead. They would run away, hide their families in the countryside, and live in fear. But John Wayne was not like most people. According to Munn's account, when FBI agents broke the news to Wayne, his first response wasn't fear. It was anger. Cold, calculated American anger. Here is where the story gets even more remarkable, because the FBI didn't just warn John Wayne, they ran their own operation to stop the hit. And the way they did it, nobody saw it coming. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI had been watching communist operatives in Los Angeles for years. They had informants inside the network, and when the Soviet agents surfaced in Hollywood, the Bureau was ready. According to Michael Munn's extensively researched biography, Duke, The Life and Image of John Wayne, which drew on interviews with Wayne himself, the FBI arranged a sting. They invited the would-be assassins to a dinner party. It was a setup, and the Soviet operatives walked right into it. They were apprehended before they ever got close to Wayne. Quietly. No headlines, no press conference. The kind of operation the government handled in the shadows, because the alternative was an international incident the size of a hydrogen bomb. The Kremlin's hired guns were neutralized, but the order from Moscow, it never officially expired. Stalin's obsession with John Wayne continued until the day Stalin himself died, in March of 1953. With Stalin gone, you might think the story was over. But what happened next, years later in a Hollywood hotel, is something John Wayne never forgot for the rest of his life. When Michael Munn finally sat down with Wayne and pressed him about the assassination plot, Wayne didn't flinch. He leaned back, looked Munn in the eye, and told him that when he heard Stalin wanted him dead, his response was, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Well, let them come." Wayne reportedly wanted to set a trap of his own. He told the FBI he was willing to be used as bait, to lure the operatives out into the open himself. The Bureau, perhaps understandably, declined the offer, but this was entirely consistent with who John Wayne was. This was a man who had watched his friends and fellow Americans go off to fight World War II, a war he was unable to fight himself due to an exemption, and it had haunted him. He channeled every ounce of that into his films, into his politics, and into his refusal to be intimidated by any force on Earth. The Soviets had sent their best. John Wayne didn't run. He stood his ground, as he always had, on screen and off. Now, here is a moment that sounds like it was written for the movies. In 1959, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev made a historic visit to the United States. Part of his itinerary included a visit to 20th Century Fox, right in the heart of Hollywood. And there, on a studio lot, Nikita Khrushchev came face to face with John Wayne. According to multiple sources, including the account relayed by Wayne to Michael Munn, Khrushchev, aware of the assassination order Stalin had placed on Wayne, pulled him aside and offered an apology. He expressed regret in his own diplomatic way for what his predecessor had ordered. Wayne reportedly accepted it with the grace of a man who had already won. He shook the man's hand. He looked him in the eye. And then he went back to making movies. Joseph Stalin ruled one of the most powerful empires in human history. He commanded armies, controlled nations, and made men disappear without a trace. He feared no one, except a cowboy from Winterset, Iowa. Think about what that means. The most powerful communist dictator in the world looked at the roster of people who threatened his ideology: scientists, generals, presidents, and at the top of that list, he put an actor, because he understood something that we sometimes forget. Ideas are more dangerous than bullets. John Wayne, in film after film, gave the American people a picture of who they were: strong, honest, unafraid, willing to stand when every instinct said to run. Stalin saw that picture, and he knew it was more powerful than any propaganda he could produce. In the end, the Soviet hit squad failed. The FBI prevailed, and John Wayne went on to make 47 more films. He won the Academy Award. He became the most popular movie star in the world, not once, but for decades. Stalin died in 1953, hunted by his own paranoia, abandoned by those closest to him, gone from history. John Wayne lived until 1979, and he is still with us today. Every time that music swells, every time that horse crests the ridge, every time an American looks at a screen and sees something worth believing in. Stalin sent a hit squad after the most American man who ever lived. It didn't work. It never had a chance. Because you can't kill a symbol, you can't silence a story, and you can't stop the Duke. Subscribe to the channel and share your opinions in the comment section.